There is one unique thing about our area. We have a lot of gypsies. Apparently, that's how it was historically developed. For some reason, they love our wide lands, steppes, forests, and the highway that runs like an artery through the neighborhood, and for some reason, the largest concentration of gypsies occurs exactly near the highway. And that's where any tourist or traveler passing by gets in trouble. Gypsies don't bother the locals because they know that this can end badly. There have been numerous attacks. My grandmother told me that gypsies have always lived here, long before the highway existed. They say they settled here during the time of Ivan the Terrible. Everyone still lives here shoulder to shoulder. Russians keep quiet for a long time, tolerate it, and then curse all the saints. But with passers-by, they can play their favorite and widespread gypsy joke with fortune-telling, prediction, and guessing the past, meanwhile stealing money, jewels, and other things from everyone. Once an interesting scene happened. A citizen from the neighboring country stopped by the store. Apparently, he needed to buy something urgently. Perhaps he was one of our former compatriots, but the license plates on his car were Finnish. Of course, it's unlikely that a real Finn would buy something to eat at a roadside stand, but maybe he was an experienced guy, or maybe he just needed a lighter. That's not the point. A group of ladies in long, colorful skirts and equally colorful scarves wearing jewelry swooped in from nowhere. I don't think it was gold, it was more like costume jewelry. They usually keep real gold at home in 3-liter jars, and that is no exaggeration. Gypsies are very respectful of their ancestral traditions, and not a single parent would think of marrying off his daughter without a dowry. And the idea of a dowry is as follows. As soon as a girl is born to a family, the parents put a 3-liter jar and begin to put their golden jewelry, all that will ever be given or bought. Gypsies will never buy any fancy jewelry with stones. The best thing is a chain, preferably a wedding ring, which is smooth and straight without any stones. First, it's easier to melt them down, and second, it's sort of the equivalent of an ingot. Even at a pawn shop, you can sell a ring at a higher price than any item with stones, even diamonds. It will still be valued as scrap. As soon as one jar is full, they begin to fill in the second one, and so on until the girl is about to get married. And the more gold is accumulated by that time, the richer the groom she gets. No marriages based on love, maybe only in the lowest caste where there are no savings. Get married as you like. In rich families, a girl is a commodity. Now back to Finn. He didn't even have time to reach his car before he was surrounded by black-eyed beauties with their offering. He looked like a real foreigner. He didn't understand Russian. He shrugged his shoulders, mumbling something in his language. Gypsies came out of nowhere like mushrooms after the rain and surrounded him like piranhas. Finally, they realized that the boy did not understand that their nonsense about fate and the coming misfortune would not work. Then they decided to take the initiative. One girl took his wallet out of his hands, and the others just brazenly checked his pockets. It was obvious that he was ticklish. He wriggled and laughed and, judging by his intonation, asked the girls not to do it, jumped in and hit the gas pedal with the dust from under the wheels, started down the track, and the girls ran after him shouting and gesticulating loudly. The scarves and skirts were flying and looked like last year's leaves that swirl in the sunshine and disappear as they sink to the floor. The car drove away and the gypsies vanished into thin air. We have such cases. You think that those girls are poor, unfortunate people forced to beg for bread. Not at all. As soon as it gets dark and the workday ends, they throw off their skirts and headscarves, put on their fancy leather jackets, sit down in the Mercedes which comes for them, and go home. Many, of course, live normal lives like ordinary people, going to work, living in apartments or houses, and studying. But such people are not considered by the Roma themselves to be Roma. But there are also nomads among them, those who are stuck in the 18th century, tents, horses, and nights under a cart on the grass. What is surprising is that although they led a nomadic way of life, they never left our neighborhood. They roamed from one village to another, trying to never cross paths with the locals, neither with ours nor with their people. They did it only on extremely rare occasions. They lived their own isolated and unintelligible life. One day, such a nomadic Tabor stopped not far from our village. They set up camp, surrounded the meadow with their tents, and parked in the middle of the meadow. They made a fire which was kept burning day and night. During the day, they cooked on the fire, and at night they gathered around singing and dancing. Of course, they unharnessed and let all their horses go free for grazing. Horses were grouped in a small herd, stomping about in the fields and meadows of the area. It was a common thing, and no one cared about them. If one day that herd of gypsy horses had not wandered onto the highway, nobody knew how they got over the barriers and what they were doing on the road. At first, they scattered along the side of the road, eating the dirty, dusty grass. Then they decided to run after each other and ended up piling up and forming a traffic jam on the road. Drivers tried to chase the animals away, shouting, honking, and waving their hands and feet. The horses apparently did not understand. They were used to hearing only Romani, and it just so happened that the Finn who had been robbed by the gypsies the other day was passing by. Of course, the proud Finnish guy stopped and got out of the car too. He approached the scene, and then everyone noticed that the horses were trampling something on the side of the road, frantically shifting their hoofs. They were clearly pounding something into the ground, snorting greedily and turning to rutting, and something light flashed beneath their feet. A child. The onlookers noticed with horror. The women immediately cried, shrieking in horror. The men tried to drive the horses away, but they furiously continued to trample on the baby. But the Finnish guy was brave. He quickly ran to the village and brought some of the gypsies. They drove their herd away. Everyone rushed to the child and was shocked at what they saw. He was undoubtedly a gypsy. God only knows where he had come from by the side of the road. Maybe he had fallen out of the tent by accident, or maybe the careless gypsy woman was afraid she had given birth before she was married, so she dropped him off near the nomadic tribes. Maybe they would see a baby and pick him up. But that wasn't what made people stunned. They saw that the horses were not trampling on the child. The boy was unharmed. The horses were trampling on the snakes that littered the roadside. The big, noble animals had only one weapon in their arsenal, their hoofs, which they used to save the child. The snakes must have crawled out of the ditch, sensed the heat, and started crawling like the gypsies from the village who robbed our Finnish guy. When they saw the familiar face in the car, they decided to finish what they had started and went through the guy's pockets again, trying to get into his car. "Get out of here!" Then the swearing started. Our guy commanded in perfect Russian without the slightest accent. The gypsies were shocked when they realized that he was Russian. They pulled away from the car and from the guy. "Are you Russian?" "Russian? I've been living in Finland for 5 years." "Go to hell," he said, and picked up the child in his arms. "Why did you pretend to be not Russian then?" the girls asked. "So that you would leave me alone sooner. I didn't want to hear your nonsense about the past and the future," the boy answered. "Hey, where did you take the child?" asked one of the older gypsies. "I took him where I had to," answered the Finn, and put the baby in the car. One of the gypsies tried to get into the car, but the boy warned her that according to the law, the car was Finnish territory and she should better stop because he was also a citizen of that country. And if she did not want an international scandal, she should pick up her skirts and go away. The gypsy girls went away and the guy took the baby with him. All I know is that the baby was lucky. The guy adopted him and took him to Finland. Thank you for listening to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like it, and click on the bell so you don't miss any new videos. All the best.